What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more acid trance, and this is one from 1997 on Telica, an offshoot of Eve Records, both of which, especially Eve, but even to a lesser extent Telica, were essentially showcases of Pablo Gargano's wizardry, although again Telica featured more additional artists. And indeed, this is a track by Vintage Millennium, and I don't remember exactly what I said when I reacted to At Libium a while back, which is a very melodic acid trance tune, and indeed I'd say it's almost more like straightaway progressive or melodic trance, even though I do think it has an acid squiggle here or there. But I probably said that it was Pablo Gargano, period, but I since have either rediscovered or learned that Vintage Millennium was indeed Pablo Gargano, but with someone named Guido, and I don't know if that's one of his friends from Italy. Again, quick biography. Pablo was from Italy, but then he moved to Northern Ireland, and it was there that he began making like trance and acid trance and hard trance, and then eventually he moved to London and had to build a new studio, but then started putting out records with the help of his Italian friend Simon, or Simon Eve as he is often known, and that became the Eve label, and the rest, as they say, is history. And then, as I said, Telica was an offshoot of Eve a few years after that. In any case, I don't know anything about this guy Guido other than, again, he made this record with Pablo, though one can imagine, especially if you've heard enough Pablo work and you hear the tracks on this record, you'll have a sense that most of the tunes, or the three tunes here, were likely engineered by Pablo, because they feature his type of kick drum, his type of acid work, and so on. But yeah, as I said, I reacted to At Libium a couple years ago, and that one has a very melodic sound. I use it in a lot of my like progressive or melodic trance mixes. This one, Propaganda, is more like typical acid trance, but maybe less so for Pablo, because a lot of Pablo's acid trance tune, they still have drive and melody, and they're a full comprehensive trance experience, even if acid is one of the main ingredients. This one is more trippy acid. It's more like we're in another dimension sort of acid trance, which is one of the sub-flavors of acid trance, but not one I typically associate with Pablo. So I will say there is a weird little anecdote here for me personally. There is a video game franchise, Mass Effect. I know I reacted to at least 2 of the tracks from the soundtrack so far, and there's actually more coming, because I have the full soundtrack and I'd like to go through more. And it's been on my mind lately because I'm currently, in some of my spare time, which isn't all that much, as you might imagine, I've been going through a playthrough of the first Mass Effect, and it reminded me that back when I first played it, it's a game from 2007, back when I was first playing it in the late 2010s, I would often put on records in the background as I was playing, and I have a distinct memory of playing this tune, Propaganda by Vintage Millennium, when I was in a particular location in one of the places in the universe of the first Mass Effect, which is to say the Citadel, and not just the Citadel, but the Presidium, which is like the very fancy, government building and so on, part of the Citadel, which is like this international, or not just international, but like galactic space station in the Milky Way galaxy. So yes, forever after, this tune has become linked to a very specific place in the Mass Effect 1 game, which it's weird how our brains work, but as an acid trance / acid techno tune, which I also have reacted to, called Impossible Trigger, as a sample in that tune suggests, memories are formed by association. And I suppose that one is forever after a stalwart of my experience with this tune. In any case, enough talking. This is Vintage Millennium. The track is Propaganda from Telica 5 in 1997.
Ecstasy ist eine illegale synthetische Droge, die unter das Betäubungsmittelgesetz fällt. Ecstasy unterdrückt für 8 Stunden das Schlafbedürfnis und hilft, die monotone Techno-Musik besser zu ertragen.
Michaela, if you can help out there, do let me know. Pretty sure that was German. I heard techno music in there. Oof.
Ecstasy ist eine illegale synthetische Droge, die unter das Betäubungsmittelgesetz fällt. Ecstasy ist eine illegale synthetische Droge, die unter das Betäubungsmittelgesetz fällt. Ecstasy ist eine illegale synthetische Droge, die unter das Betäubungsmittelgesetz fällt. Ecstasy ist eine illegale synthetische Droge, die unter das Betäubungsmittelgesetz fällt. Ecstasy unterdrückt für 8 Stunden das Schlafbedürfnis und hilft, die monotone Techno-Musik besser zu ertragen. für 8 Stunden das Schlafbedürfnis und hilft, die monotone Techno-Musik besser zu ertragen.
Yeah, what he said. So yes, it is, as I said, very otherworldly acid trance. It's like vibes, like atmosphere acid trance. It doesn't have like a big lead melody and a sort of, a dramatic, epic type of sound. It has more of a trippy, twisted, where am I sort of vibe. And having said that, it does also sound very like mechanical. There's lots of noises that have a like metallic or otherwise electromechanical character to them. It reminds me of being on a space station run by a very advanced AI or something, which I suppose is partly based on the sonic character of the tune and also maybe based on that memory association. Without spoiling anything for those who haven't played Mass Effect, the Citadel is a space station that you eventually learn was created by this, more than a billion-year-old AI species, and there's a lot that comes with that revelation. But back to the track, as I said, I enjoy all those mechanical elements. Has a bit of a psychedelic vibe, partially because there are some noises which are either arrhythmic or at the very least they're not like a continuous or like rhythmic aspects so much as they provide some atmosphere, and they sound like living beings, or maybe again like AI functions or processes, and thus it feels like an experience of like mind and place more than like a story, like a lot of Pablo's acid trance tunes do, where they have a dramatic chronology and a story that plays out like with the melody. So yeah, in Pablo's larger catalog, this one is a bit anomalous, maybe why it was made under the alternate name Vintage Millennium, which, fair to say, at Libium, it's very different from this, but it's also quite different from a lot of Pablo's tunes back in the day, back in the mid-90s. So yeah, it makes sense to me that maybe this was made under another name, even if it's also under another name because he did it with someone named Guido. So yeah, a top tune. There's one other track on here that I haven't reacted to. It's called Expanded. Of the three, it's maybe the one I play the least in my mixes, but it's still a totally good tune. It's closer to this. It's closer to propaganda. I was going to say propagandy. It's closer to propaganda than it is at Libium, but as I said, it's by no means, a mediocre tune. It is quite a good tune, but if I'm playing this record, most of the time I'm playing this one or at Libium, which again, in two different kinds of sets. In any case, let me know what you think, and from the incredible Luca and I will see you next time. Peace.